Hello everyone, once again, it's Pathways of Hope, and I'm Jake Tan. I'll be giving today's reflection. And we're looking at the Gospel of Matthew. If you've been following the Gospel from the past few days, well, even weeks, it's been about Matthew. And we're at chapter 22, verses 34 to 40. And here we're faced with one of the more popular passages. In context, Jesus is coming from a series of questioning already, or even parables, sharing about the kingdom of heaven, being asked about different things like what is good. And here, the Pharisees, the teachers of the law, they're asking him once again, maybe trying to trap him, what is the greatest commandment? And most likely during the time, you're thinking about the 10 commandments, and then you're going to choose which one of the 10 is the greatest, because when God tells Moses or gives Moses the commandments, he doesn't specify. But in this case, they're trying to trap Jesus to say like, okay, what are you going to do here? And what Jesus does is quite revolutionary, but at the same time, very straightforward, and it's very clear what he's trying to share. He gives two seemingly different commandments, something that's not listed on the 10 explicitly, but if you look at the essence, it's actually very concretely manifested. How so? So, Jesus' answer. What is the greatest commandment? You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And the second one is very much like it, to love your neighbor as yourself. So let's break that down a little bit. So with the first part, it talks about loving God with all your faculties, with all your being, your soul, your mind, with all your heart, with all your love. And the heart there and the mind, it's very similar because that's where your seat of decision was being done, but also what you're thinking, what you're contemplating, what your thoughts are like, if you're entertaining good, evil, so on and so forth. But also just the part about all your soul. So that's one's whole body, one's inner self as well. And in a way, like they're synonymous about certain facets about what's happening internally. So it's just trying to emphasize over and over again everything about you, not just the outward appearance, not the way you dress, not the way you appear, but even what's inside. That's something that should love God or honor Him. And the second one is to love your neighbor as yourself. And it's interesting how He uses yourself as a parameter here. There's an assumption where in this life we think about ourselves the most, as in it's just naturally self-preservation. If I'm going to reach this career, this success, this goal, if I'm going to earn this much amount of money, if I'm going to get this award, this milestone, or if it's something grand, it could be something simple like, oh, if I'm going to eat enough for today, if I'm going to have enough for today, if I'm going to be able to provide for my family, basically certain things that we're after. But God is just basically sharing with us, or through this commandment, is saying that this can be channeled not just towards yourself, but to others. Use yourself as a reference to love one another. And it's really based on that natural assumption that we find ourselves in high value. And I think I want to narrow down on the word, two words. So if there are two commandments, two words. First is love. And I think love here is a very significant word. I like the definition of St. Thomas Aquinas on love. It really means to will the good of the other. And that's, I think, what God is trying to teach us, the unconditional love. The greatest form of love, to die to oneself for the sake of his or her friends. And we can love God by doing that, putting ourselves on the line. We can love our neighbors by doing that, putting ourselves on the line. So that's the first word, love. And the second word is all. So you see that in the first commandment, but perhaps that's very much evident in the second, especially if we consider God as the source of our love, as the source of the kind of love that we should share with other people. God doesn't say like with 98%, 95%, 80%, but He says all, which means 100%, or whatever we can give it, if it can go beyond 100%. And I think that's significant because it also captures how Jesus in the passage talks about how all of this hinges, all of the laws, all of the things that God has taught us, it hinges on these two commandments. What does that mean? It means every instruction that Christ gives, regards to selling all we have or following Him with all our heart, or even avoiding certain sins, all these things point towards love. All these things point towards love. They don't point towards order. They don't point towards like harmony and the avoiding any disruption of whatever hierarchy or the whatever the church being stable and all that. But it really points towards love, and love is really an action. Love is not passive. Love is not hidden. Love is expressed. And love is also something purposive. And God and Jesus is really just teaching us here that love is meant for someone else. Love is meant for God. Love is meant for our neighbor. And it's really to will the good of the other, to express that unconditional love. So I think at the end of it, you can really say that Christianity, our faith, what Jesus is trying to preach, it's really a ministry. It's a message of love. And I love how he just captures that in these two commandments. In fact, maybe just to end the reflection, the 10 commandments, that's how it's divided. The first 3, it's about God very concretely. And then everything else that follows, it's about our neighbor. And that's why Jesus summarizes it that way. To love the Lord your God with all you are, and to love your neighbor as yourself. So I hope this is something for us to consider, to reflect about. Maybe we could think about where I need to express love more. Love being to will the good of the other. And if we'd want, we could consider also how much we love ourselves and how we can let that love burst forth into others, where it should not just stop at ourselves. There's really nothing wrong with that. Having enough self-dignity, having enough purpose and value for ourselves, but let that overflow not into selfishness, but into love for others, for the people that the Lord puts along our path. So thanks once again for listening into Pathways of Hope. I hope you found this reflection helpful, and see you tomorrow for the next reflection.